Hey guys, this is my Reflect Totem 3.0 and I actually did a Reflect Totem build 2 years ago during October and 1 year ago during October. And in my Reflect Totem 2.0 I said this. My Reflect Totems 2.0 and I actually had to watch my video from 3.0 to see how exactly to scale the damage and what the... Yep, so I had to watch my video again in which I watched even older video to understand how Reflect works and what it scales. And I was actually surprised that none of the damage mods scale it. So in this build I went a different route. Instead of Holy Flame Totems, this time I went with the Siege Ballistas. Actually not Siege Ballistas, but the Ballistas. Previously they were just called Totems, range attack Totems. So this time I have way more damage. It also kills FPS way better. And clear speed still sucks. But how about 2.5 million DPS sound like? It's alright, right? How about 6 million? Because you can actually get 6 million DPS. And all you have to do, compared to what I'm gonna show you, is to get 7 more levels. That's it. 7 more levels and change Sub-Ascendancy class. So in this video I'm gonna talk about how Reflect Totem scale, how I scaled it, and well, you shouldn't play it unless you really want to push your PC to the limit and just see maybe it would set itself on fire. The reason why I only went with 4 ballistas is that the more ballistas you add, the more it kills your FPS. And with 4 ballistas, I can already reach 1 FPS. It literally becomes a slideshow. So I didn't want to do that, and instead I went with a bit more life than I initially planned. But you can just very well easily get more damage. However, it's not like a build that I would ever recommend. This is just a meme. It's not good for the grease speed. It was supposed to be good for Heist because it has a lot of crowd control. It basically sucks all the enemies inside the totem and keeps away from you. But the build still felt very squishy because you can't see what's happening, and during that time enemies would still shoot some projectiles towards you and you probably wouldn't see them. So I actually died quite a lot of times because I just couldn't see anything. For the clear speed I chose to use Rain of Arrows because it just covers a lot of screen and it hits multiple times, so it sucks enemies very fast. And for single target I chose to use Shrapnel Ballista because it turns out that Shrapnel Ballista can still shotgun. I could just very well use Barrage Support Gem, but it is not as good. However, that's the issue. If I'm shooting 12 projectiles per ballista, the ballista has to be very close to the target in order to even do reflect damage, because reflect AoE is so small and it doesn't scale with increased area of effect from the passive tree. So there's no way to increase the AoE, and it's like maybe 2 units radius AoE, so basically you take one step and it no longer damages the enemies. And another thing is that all the projectiles have to kind of shotgun, and the positioning has to be just right in order to do good damage. And you're gonna see in this video a lot of failures, a lot of FPS drops, and sometimes when everything works well, you're gonna see good DPS against single target. But I did not min-max this build. I did not level it to like level 91, which is when this build would be kind of complete. I only managed to torture myself to level 84. So with 7 or 6 more levels, I would get another extra ballista and 70% increased totem life, which is kind of big damage multiplier. The reflect, you get reflect from Torchoak Step boots. Totems reflect 25% of their maximum life as fire damage to nearby enemies when hit. And in order to, I mean, people thought, why not decoy totem? You don't want to wait for enemies to hit the totem. You want to automate so that totems would be able to hit themselves, basically. And you do that with Eye of Innocence. Sadly, Eye of Innocence is level 68, so the build doesn't really start until you put on Eye of Innocence. Once you put on that, you make sure that totems have 100% chance to ignite and very fast hit rate. So the faster they hit enemies and the faster they proc ignite, the more times per second they're gonna reflect the damage. So each time a totem ignites an enemy, it would take 100 fire damage. However, you do get totem resistances, so that gets mitigated, so it's really not a big deal. So 3 ways to scale its damage: getting totem life, because that is kind of like a base damage, then getting well, faster proc rate, basically faster attack speed or faster cast speed if you're using Hall of Fame totem or something like Bolighting. And third way is to debuff enemies. Debuff enemies either reducing their fire resistance or just generic enemies take increased damage. Nothing else scales it. You don't get damage from fire damage, you don't get damage from elemental damage, you don't get damage from spell damage, from area damage, nothing else. So only 3 ways. This time I went with the ballistas, like I said, kill rain, fast hit rate. I was also able to get Kaom Heart. And the main way I'm reducing enemy resistance is fire resistance is with Eye of Malice. Eye of Malice says nearby enemies have 50% increased and increased fire and cold resistance. And this increased works even with negative. So if you get negative resistance to enemies, it will increase that negative. So I got Elemental Equilibrium, which gives -50. I got 2 curses. And I got Cooked Alive, 4 Cooked Alive, which is from medium cluster jewels, which gives another -10, so another -40. And all of that is then multiplied by 50%. And exposure as well. Exposure from the mask, which is only 10% actually. Yeah, it's only 10%. I wanted to automate as many things as possible. So the way I'm procking, normally Elemental Equilibrium would be proc by totems. So for that reason, I'm using Malachai's Artifice ring, and I socketed Lightning Trap because you can still use traps or mines even if you take Ancestral Bond, because Ancestral Bond says you cannot deal damage with skills yourself, and if you cannot deal damage with skills yourself, then you cannot normally proc Elemental Equilibrium. But traps and mines do not count as you dealing damage. That's why you can kind of still override it and still have some damage with traps or mines. You can also use golems, but golems do tend to die, and I don't want to rely on that. Next thing, very important thing, what scales totem life? Normally, if you use siege ballista or shrapnel ballista, then your totem life is going to be based on the shrapnel or siege ballista level. But if you use ballista totem support, then the totem life is going to be based on the skill linked to it, and not the ballista totem support. And I did test that multiple times, and every time I used level 1 gem, the ballistas would do no damage and would instantly die when enemies just hit them once. So those are the main things. I obviously also need Empire's Grasp to reverse knockback, and I actually have 2 kill rains. One is for clear speed with Rain of Arrows, and one is for single target with Shrapnel Ballista. And because of that, I was able to squeeze in Kaom's Heart, so I can get enough life. As you can see, I only have 6.3k life, but I have so many more life nodes around the tree I can pick up if I would choose to do that. But I mean, it's not really for endgame. This is just a meme. Now, maybe first I'm gonna talk about the jewels that I have. So, okay, first, this is Scion, Chieftain, Pathfinder. Chieftain because it does give cover enemies in ash. The leech does not work because the reflect does not count as totem damage. I don't know why, but it doesn't. And then Pathfinder because of attack speed and flash sustain. That's basically it. But if you want, you can refund from Pathfinder into Hierophant. You get extra 1 totem, and that's extra 1 totem is like almost extra 1 million DPS. But also it may be harder to force all totems to be close enough to the target so that all of them would hit at the same time with all the projectiles. And also, like endgame enemies cannot be knocked back. I thought I'm not even gonna focus on having knockback when playing with the single target setup with Shrapnel Ballista, because you can't knock back, so why even bother? That's why for Rain of Arrow I am actually using Divergent knockback support, which does give knockback distance with quality. And I don't really have any more knockback chance on the passive tree. So I have jewels, couple normal jewels with totem life, percentage life for me, and then knockback chance. This is just a bit of extra because I don't have 100% chance to knockback. You could use Blunderboard body armor, but it does give life. AoE does nothing for you, but instead you could just get Kaom's Heart for more life. You could also use Kinetism, unique cluster jewel, which disables spears, which may not be great, but it does give 100% chance to knock back. But I was testing it, did not like it, and decided to not have that thing. And besides, sucking enemies in is not really an issue. The issue is performance, and enemies do get stuck behind everything. There's a box, we get stuck. There's a curve, we get stuck. There's a door, we get stuck. Clear speed could be better if enemies could be pulled like around the curve. Like if it gets stuck, they would just be pulled to the side or around it, then it would work better. And if AoE was bigger of reflect, it would actually be very decent. So I have two unique jewels as well. Rain of Splinters to totems fire 2 additional projectiles, and 41% reduced totem damage does not matter because my DPS is literally like 77 DPS or 171 DPS with shrapnel ballista, so it really doesn't matter. And then another unique jewel is Spire of Stone to make totems immune to stuns. That's kind of a mandatory. And then I have two large cluster jewels. I basically went with Prismatic Heart. There's nothing beneficial, so I just needed to cap my resistances properly, and some of it may be difficult because I'm using so many uniques. There's unlimited options of how to cap your res and get enough life. So I went with Prismatic Heart because I wanted as many medium jewels as possible to get as many cooked alive as possible. Each cooked alive gives -10 to fire resistance to enemies when they get ignited. And I did test this. Enemies ignited by you have -10 fire resistance. I did test it, and it does work with totems. We tested that in PvP. So I got 4 of these cooked alive. You don't need like a second good thing because there's nothing else good. If you want, you can get 4% life, maximum life, but you can get 5% life on the tree, so you don't even need that. So just get cooked alive with 4-pointer, not 5-pointer, because if you get 5-pointer, this happens. You want to take that, you're gonna have to waste 1 more point getting to the empty jewel. Another large cluster jewel, I just went with more AoE and elemental damage. I was testing if AoE would affect it. I was also getting Templar's AoE, but it did not affect it, so I just refunded that. Basically get whatever large cluster jewels you want to get. Maybe try to get something good on like additional attributes like life, intelligence if you need, dexterity, something like that. Also, I do have call to arms. I am using Enduring Cry, so normally, I mean, I don't have any regen normally or leech from totems. If it was a normal totem build, I would get leech and it would feel much better, but since I don't have it, I am using Enduring Cry to have some regen and to make me a bit tankier. Oh, I also do have Fluid Motion to convert strength into dex because this does need quite a bit of dex. Now, for the rest of my links. So my clear speed setup is Rain of Arrow linked with GMP, faster attacks, Empower level 3, Divergent Knockback, doesn't need to be Divergent, Knockback, and Ballista Totems. So I didn't even bother with quality, but normally you would want quality on GMP and faster attacks for more attack speed. And then my single target setup is Shrapnel Ballista linked with Empower level 3, Combustion, faster attacks with quality, GMP with quality, and LMP with quality. Quality for GMP and LMP gives attack speed, so you do want that. And extra projectiles do give you more damage because it can shotgun with all projectiles at the same time and reflect 12 times in one hit. And that's why these skills FPS so well. Actually, with Shrapnel Ballista, the FPS is fine. It's just it cannot kill more than one enemy at a time, or at least it cannot suck more than one enemy at a time. So Rain of Arrow does really good job at crowd controlling enemies and also killing your FPS because it hits so many times per second and procs reflect so many times per second. It's like a couple hundred times probably per second if it's attacking, or maybe even thousands of times per second if it's attacking multiple enemies and igniting multiple enemies at the same time from multiple hits. Next, I do have Void Sphere with Hex Touch, Flammability, and Elemental Weakness with quality. I did not have enough intelligence to increase Elemental Weakness level. Inside Malachai's Artifice, I have Lightning Spire Trap. I chose Lightning Spire Trap because sometimes you throw it, the enemies die, and new enemies appear in that area, and the Lightning Spire Trap keeps reapplying Elemental Equilibrium. Then I also have Flame Dash, Enduring Cry, Second Wind, and Lightning Golem. Also have Cast and Damage taken with Purifying Flame and Molten Shell. Molten Shell is just a bit of a life buffer, and Purifying Flame does create Consecrated Ground, which does give regen to you and to your totems actually. And also I have skitter bots. And I do have aspect of the spider on my build. So for the auras, I have aspect of the spider and skitter bots. I could also use clarity, but you're not gonna be able to sustain your mana with clarity. So you're gonna have to use a mana flask. And if you can get enduring divine mana flask, that works very well. By the way, while leveling, I was playing with Holy Flame Totem while leveling. And I took some elemental damage nodes to have some damage, and later I refunded. And then, as you can see, I took life, took cluster jewels, more life, and then totem life, and basically that's it. And attack speed if you can get. Actually didn't show my quiver and one ring. So one ring, just life and resistances. And one quiver, this is like very bad quiver. I just bought it from NPC, slapped one alchemy, got some resistances and life, and that's it. This is for the clear speed, but for single target, I did craft boss fire and additional arrow with fire resistance which I needed, and crafted life, and also blind on hit works very well. And yeah, that pretty much covers the build. So I haven't really planned the next build yet. I'm gonna do that the next stream. I have pretty bad headache, so I may be off for like 1 or 2 days. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.